Tŷ Hafan is a children's hospice. We've been open now for 20 years, actually 20 years this week. And we offer care and support to life-limited children and their families across the whole of Wales and for as long as those families need it. So we often meet families at the point of a diagnosis and travel that journey with them as they care for their child and then through death and into bereavement and beyond.
We're on the coastline. The South Wales Coastal Path runs alongside our grounds. We've taken children rock pooling and things onto the beach. But the beautiful thing is that you open the windows here and you can hear the sea. And there's nothing better than just listening to the sea.
We know how much outdoor space can be of benefit to people who are experiencing trauma, whether that be physical trauma or emotional trauma. So really the hospice couldn't be any more ideally located.
24th of February 2004, Abigail decided she was going to make an entrance into the world.
She had the sort of personality where if she came into a room, obviously she's in a pushchair, bring her into a room and people would just gravitate to her.
When she died, she was 10 years old. She was only the size of a 12-month, 18-month. Tŷ Hafan was somewhere to come that was fun. Didn't have to worry about wheelchair access, didn't have to worry about the medical support.
And she just enjoyed everything, which was lovely. And that's what little ones should do, and that's what Tŷ Hafan's about, helping parents to enable them to have lots of fun and to get the best that they can. Maybe it's only for a short time, but a really, really worthwhile time.
So one of the really important bits of the outdoor space of the hospice, right from the very beginning when it was first built, was the memorial garden, which was always designed there for a space for the bereaved families to come back to. And it was where we, as the Tŷ Hafan family, remembered the children that had died. So it was where the pebbles that have the children's names engraved onto them were kept, and it was where we centred our services of remembrance around.
But when I arrived, the memorial garden was very much a formal space, very quiet and formal, but lots of box hedging and that sort of thing so that parents could go out and reflect and have a quiet space to reflect out in the grounds.
But the garden was becoming tired, the hospice was sort of 15, 16 years old, and we knew we needed to rescape really that space.
It was the realisation that the existing memorial garden had served its purpose and reached its lifespan, design life if you like. So it was a step change to look to the future for the next 20 plus years.
We wanted to perhaps put something within the gardens, particularly in the new gazebo area which looked out over the sea, that recalled how important it is to listen to the children's names. And that's really where the Birdsong project started.
The project's called These Names Will Be Forever in Our Skies, and it's a memorial project which has transformed the names of all the children that have passed through the doors of the hospice into Birdsong. After reading about roller cage canaries in the early 1900s, you could buy records and you would take the record home and you would play it next to your canary and you'd repeat play it, and then you would eventually teach the canary how to sing the latest track. And for me, the idea of birds being kind of like USB sticks of information, of well-being and information, started to become quite an exciting prospect. So then I started thinking, how can I teach birds to sing names? Because the idea of the names of the children is important, and the name of how a name lives on and how a legacy lives on, and especially with nature, how can you combine these things? So then it started to play around with the idea of translating names into Morse code, Morse code getting resampled as Birdsong and then getting birds to sing the Morse code. And I had to assign a name to a bird, so each person was a bird. So then that's where this came into play again, because we started to pick birds that sung the strongest during the month the child died. From my point of view, the idea was it should be quite playful, and it was in line with maybe some of the other things in the garden, with the adventure play set that they've got for the children, and it being something approachable and child friendly. And then we strip that right back, and we have kind of like a really delicate but strong black bird box. So it has this memorial kind of weight to it, and it has the sound which is just permeating through. It's machined, so the dots inside where the bird would go in, the sound comes out.
What do you think of this one, Justin? Need to fiddle with that sound.
That one's a blackbird, isn't it?
Yeah, that's not blackbird, is it?
There is a gazebo. It's like a platform, and it's overlooking the bay, overlooking the water. Sonically, it's very rich, anyway, because you've got the woodland at one side, you have the beach and the waves on the other. So the connection between the beach and the woodland is kind of like this sound piece of the children's names being played in the gazebo.
When we came out to the gazebo and Justin played the Robin song for the first time, I say it was emotionally very, very powerful. And it's just so nice to hear it out here.
It just came as just memories flooding back through my mind, as every single little dot or line would be a different memory playing through my head just over and over. This would be probably one of her favourite places in the whole world, and just to hear her name round just everywhere around this place would just be amazing for her.
We're very, very pleased with it. It's certainly a sound that we hear around the garden frequently. I think it's just the perfect development.
People who come here will ask about it, and then they'll learn more, and then they can pass it on to everyone.
What we've done today is to just invite all of the bereaved families back to hear a little bit about the project and to listen to a little bit of the sound piece. It came about at about the same time as the Service of Remembrance in the summer 2 years ago. And I know many of you here today come to that service, but I'm also truly humbled that there are lots of people here today who don't come to that service, and this is maybe speaking to families in a different way. But after that service, I was talking with the team, as a bit of a debrief about what the service means to the families and what it means to us. And we talked about how important it is that we say your children's names, and that your children's names live both within our hearts and your hearts, and that they're said out loud. We were in the middle of this amazing garden transfer at the time, and we knew we were going to have this lovely area here where families were going to be able to come and sit quietly and get the solace here from the natural environment and the wonderful sea that we've got that we know is so therapeutic. And we just thought it would be really nice if perhaps the children's names just lived on forever, just being whispered. That is the extent of my creativity. Luckily for me, Justin is a lot more creative, and Justin and I spoke about how this might work, and Justin came back to me and said, how about if we take these children's names and we turn them into birdsong? and that we make that unique for every single one of your children who we've known over the last 20 years.
Bobby first came here in 2002. We were very anxious about coming one way as a family. Bobby was only 6 months old when we first got referred. And the papers got kept in the drawer for about 6 months. So then when we finally took the plunge and came, we said, right, let's come, let's see how things go and what it's all about. Because the last thing we wanted was another hospital. I don't know how much you remember, but I remember that first visit and the staff were up in the foyer there. And we just had a lovely welcome. And we never looked back, did we? We loved it here. The sound would bounce off the hospice and, everyone can hear it. There's a couple of seconds gap in between each sound. I think that's really nice. A lot of thought has gone into it.
The songs are beautiful, but the gaps are absolutely incredible. The silence representing that child's life is just, it's really meaningful.
If you're out in that garden and you're newly, your child's just passed away, it's sort of that gentle reminder of you're not on your own, other people have gone through it.
It's quite a difficult subject to bring up with other people when you're talking about a child that's died. It's an uncomfortable subject and people don't know what to say. But if you're talking about something joyful, Birdsong, and the concept behind translating her name into like a birdsong call, that's something that people can instantly latch onto and all have an opinion.
There is evidence to suggest that birds are great mimics. We know that birds like to mimic sounds that they hear. We know that the children's names being sung because of the nature of them being Morse code aren't exactly like birdsong. But what we don't know is whether those natural birds in our environment will start to mimic the sounds that they hear.
We've been playing the birdsong in the garden at home. So in Abigail's garden, effectively, we've converted an area of the garden for Abigail. And when we start to play the song, all the other birds go very quiet. So they're listening to it. And then very often the birds start then sort of either mimicking parts of it or at least chattering to each other. So the birds are actually sort of, communicating with each other. I've spoken with people at work about it and friends, and the level of interest is huge.
It's sort of a world first and groundbreaking and progressive. I think it's going to become almost like a central point of it, even though it's sort of on the perimeter. It's going to be quite well used, and so I think it's ideal for it, really.
Lots of our children's sensory is very important. So to hold a pebble, to feel a pebble with a child's name on, to actually listen to birdsong and say, this is this child's name. So it's not only for bereaved families, it's actually for all of our Tŷ Hafan families to enjoy the garden and to relax in the garden, and a place of quiet reflection, really.
Each step of the way, the hospice has gone above and beyond what's needed for an organisation to support me as an artist, to support the concept. It's the way that it's been facilitated has been fantastic, and also the conversations around how it should look as well has been supported. So they've listened to things from my side, listened to them, and we've come with something which I would say is a collaboration between myself, the parents, and the hospice.
It's been a very, very good experience. Obviously there's more to come. We're just at the release point here, so there's definitely more to come.
This is what Abigail would be front and centre. It's her name being shouted across the countryside. It's Abigail and she's here.
I think it's a reminder that Bobby's legacy is still there and it moves on, and that she's still remembered very much in our family and in the Tŷ Hafan family, because they're very much our extended family. It'd be nice to come and remember and sit there and listen to the birdsong.
Even just now, in just saying goodbye to some families and them saying how amazing they think the project is and how much it means to them. It's been, yeah, it's made 18 months of hard work really worth it.
I would love to see the idea of the children's children coming in generations, time to come back to the location here, not only just to listen maybe to the sound files, but also hear how it's affected nature itself, and if any birds have actually adapted that song. It'd be wonderful to actually maybe turn the sound piece off and the birds are singing the names anyway. And that fits in with the idea of what the title is. Their names will live forever in the skies, and that this legacy continually moves forward and onwards and can aid people.